Peace and greetings, beautiful people. It's your girl Thryce here, back for another video. All right, so this video I am going to talk about the court cards in the New Era Elements Tarot, because I have been using this deck for probably about 2 weeks or so, and this is not a complete like flip through of the deck. I'll save that for another video, but because the court cards on this deck are rather facey or portrait like, wanted to compare them to the Rider-Waite-Smith, which a lot of people are more familiar with, as far as like, well, even in the Thoth and the TDM, you know, they're very directional in terms of the court cards. So just kind of wanted to compare them a little bit. This is like my 5th try trying to do this video. I've been having a lot of technical issues, so hopefully this one sticks this time. What I learned about the courts in this one is so the New Era Elements deck is a Thoth based deck in terms of the placement of the Strength and the Justice card, and the astrological correspondences being placed upon the minor cards. So for the court cards, the way that the creator did this, and by the way, in case you're curious, that's the New Era Elements there. It's going to be based on direction. Basically for the fire suit, or the wands, it says that the card continues, well, that's the sun, here's the daughter, okay. The fire court card connects us back to the place where the drive and awareness of Homo sapiens first originated, and where from the first spark we began our journey as a species. Africa. A young Maasai woman adorned with elaborate bead jewelry looks out at the current with an alert curiosity. So here she's talking about the daughter of fire. What I noticed about this is kind of in the Rider-Waite-Smith, the page is, you know, looking up towards the wand, kind of like with a curious mind. But I find that her hand gestures here, her fingers with her hands kind of, you know, is pointing up in the same direction as that. So some of these things are very subtle. Most of them kind of have the directionality, most of them do, that I've noticed here with the Son of Fire. He is facing to the left. He does have a staff in his hand, although he's not on a horse. But he is, let me see here. He is a young warrior with the traditional beaded headdress, Maasai headdress. He holds a wand sphere against his right shoulder. So the directionality is there. The Mother of Fire is facing forward, with the Rider-Waite-Smith. She's facing, her body is facing forward, but her head is slightly tilted to the right there. And if you look really closely, there are cowrie shells off to the right here, which throws the center of gravity off to the right just slightly. And then for the Father of Fire, he is, you know, his hand, he's tipping his hat. You know, what we're seeing is on the left hand side, and you know, we have the king up here facing to the left. So that's for the fire. So this is, you know, how she's come up with this. So the next suit is water. Now, for the suit of water or cups, it says the suit of water depicts a people who have mastered the oceans like no other. People of Polynesian descent have crossed the Pacific and settled island after island without any help of a sextant or compass. Here, a Morai girl in traditional feather dress wearing a fishhook pendant looks out in calm serenity. So that's what we got going on with the daughter of water, which rhymes, and the Page of Cups here. This one I wasn't really able to too much find like the synchronicity, like with the fish in the cup, because we kind of like look for that, but there is a fish hook. So, you know, the element is there. It's just depicted differently. Something else to notice about the water suit in the backgrounds here, there's all kind of like these waves going on, which is pretty cool. So for the Son of Water, this one, she says it depicts a young Hawaiian musician wearing traditional costume of leaves, shells, and leaves made from strung flowers and nuts. He is facing to the right, like the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Cups here. You know, so there's that. I think directionality for me is a little bit more important, like as far as, you know, the Daughter of Water facing forward. If you look at the Page of Cups feet, his feet are faced both ways. So in essence, his body's facing forward, or her body's facing forward, however you want to do, knave, daughter, all that kind of stuff. For the Mother of Water, excuse me, for the Mother of Water, their description here says the card depicts a smiling Morai woman with a Mao Moko pattern on her chin. She holds a book about traditional Morai tattoo art in her hand, and she wears a silver fern koru pendant around her neck, symbolizing new life, strength, growth, and peace. So what I take away from this is kind of like, if you ever done bibliomancy, that's the type of divination. If you want to connect it back to the Queen and the Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, using the cup as a means of divining, you can take that. But that inner knowledge, even when you read a book, you absorb the information that then becomes part of your collective, you know, psyche. You know, what you got going on in the unconscious, it eventually might come up to the surface there. So I thought that was really cool interpretation of the Queen of Cups, or Mother of Water. And then for the King here, it says there's a Morai warrior, his face adorned with the complex line work of Mao Moko, and if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. He wears a traditional feather cloak and a greenstone toki pendant, which gives him a chief's authority. So in this case, he is slightly facing to the right, like the King of Cups up here. And it was funny because I did notice when I brought them up really close together that they have very similar features. Isn't that kind of cool? Can you see that? I just thought it was kind of interesting. Just the tilt is just perfect enough that it looks so similar. All right, moving on. Now we're into air, the suit of air. I think this is the one that kind of threw me off a little bit, especially the Knight. But let's go ahead and see what they say about the daughter here. It says, the card combines the element of air with its associated geographical region of the East and depicts a young Japanese woman in a silk robe unsheathing a katana. She is looking inward in concentration and stands before an abstract pattern of stylized clouds. Now, all of the air have stylized clouds in the backgrounds. And the Daughter of Air and the Page of Swords make sense to me. They both actually have a sword. For air, but none of the other ones actually have a sword, so that kind of throws me off, especially this guy, because this guy is very much like, raw, go get them, you know, and this Son of Air looks so very calm. But the way that she explains this one, which I actually thought was a very refreshing take on it, it says this card depicts a portrait of a young, thoughtful Chinese man. He is calmly looking at the viewer with his hand to his cheek as he contemplates an idea. He is wearing a simple sweater, and outward appearances are not important to him. And that's not to mean that, you know, he's trying to be sloppy. The point is that he wants the intellectual stimulation. His mind may be racing in thoughts and ideas and patterns, or you know, just the whole Gemini essence of communicating and intellectual thought processes and things like that. And you don't want to distract anybody with shiny things, you know, so that's very earthy in that sense, like, ooh, shiny things. So I thought that was a nice take on the Knight of Swords. or son of air. Moving on to the queen. This card shows the portrait of a Mongolian dancer in traditional costume. She has her hand raised in a graceful gesture, and the metallic accents on her elaborate costume and headdress take up the motives of the traditional suit of swords. So what I think they're referring to is kind of like, because it's metal, I think metal accents are kind of like air associations. So something I noticed while I was doing the comparison in a different video is that I never realized that the Queen of Swords has like a butterfly crown. You guys ever noticed that before? Because I you know, as long as I've been using this deck, I just noticed this. So my original thoughts when I first looked at this here, although it may be like traditional, you know, costume, is that what she said? Yeah, costume and headdress, that the headdress almost has this militant, and I don't know if that's her hair, but because it's grayscale, it almost looks like an official's hat, like a military hat to me for whatever reason. And I think it maybe just came through because I'm thinking about the Queen of Swords archetype, where there's this structure and command that comes with the Queen of Swords energy, that is kind of to be respected, even though it is also feminine and beautiful at the same time. But I don't know, that's just kind of how I saw it, so I just wanted to throw that out there. And then for the Father of Air, and so this card shows a portrait of an old Chinese man who seems to be lost in thought as he puts his hand to his face. The metal chain he wears around his neck connects his suit to the traditional suit of swords. So I think the metal accents is you know, supposed to be like bringing in that sword, bringing in like what the sword would be made of. But the Son of Air doesn't have that, doesn't carry that in the New Era Elements deck. So that's the only thing that throws me off about this Son of Air. Out of all the court cards, this one kind of, it's so different that it throws me off a little bit, but it's good to try to shake it up sometimes. Last but not least, the Earth suit. Oh, did I compare how they were looking? I think I did. I think the swords suits, they all matched up in alignment with the directionality except the sun. Back it up. Daughter of Earth. Okay, so this card combines the element of Earth with the North and with the people who throughout history have probably shown the most interest in the material universe. A young Caucasian woman with rich tangled hair smiles at the viewer. She wears a small ginkgo leaf necklace, and behind her is an abstract pattern reminiscent of wood grain. They all have this wood grain pattern, the Earth suit. So at least it's easy to identify just on a whim by looking at the patterns in the back. So small trinket, easy enough. She is slightly faced to the right, so that makes sense. The way they explain the Son of Earth, looks calmly and steadily at the viewer. His somewhat fatiguous getup shows that he is putting stock in the material and in his own appearance. So at first this one kind of threw me off, but then I thought about how the Knight of Coins or Pentacles or Discicles or Discs, the Earth, right, takes his time, and he, you know, he moves with caution. So if you think about how he, you know, what he's wearing, how he's dressed, it's very layered. He got his tie done, and all of that stuff takes time to put together and make proper. He probably ironed his clothes and all of that kind of stuff there. So he didn't put himself together in any kind of sloppy form or fashion. So I would, you know, take that to help with crossing over kind of that traditional meaning that some people might take over. The Mother of Earth says, the card shows an older woman. Her face shows the experiences of a long life. She gives the viewer a kind smile and could easily be someone's favorite aunt or grandmother. She does look like she knows how to cook a good meal, and she is faced to the left just a little bit. And then the father is faced off to the right a little bit, so which matches the Rider-Waite things. And for the father, it says, you see an older man in simple street clothes. He looks at the viewer with a kind smile. He is unpretentious and approachable, and he has built his success on his experiences. So there you guys have it. I hope that this helped kind of, you know, gauge you into whether or not you may be considering purchasing this deck. I will do a separate video kind of doing a walkthrough on how I feel about the whole deck as a whole, but I do like the court cards in this. It does have different things going on, and it pulls in the directionality as a basis for, you know, the races they chose to depict on the people cards. So I thought that was kind of cool. So all right, signing out. Much love, many blessings. Peace.